American builder Wellcraft has become famous over the years as the creator of some serious offshore fishing platforms. But that changed a couple of years back with the introduction of the first in a new series of Explorer pilot houseboats, and it's subtly changed again with the introduction of this, the first in a new line of open boats that is more geared towards onboard recreation than it is towards the needs of the offshore fishermen. Before we jump on board, let's just take a quick look at the hull, because it might seem a little bit familiar to some of you, and so it should, because this is basically the same hull as we saw on the Explorer 38. A fine entry, a plumb bow, a little bit of bow flare, but not a great deal. And the engines are the same too. If we work our way back past the T-top that gives this boat its name, the 38 T-top, we'll see we've got a triple rig here of 350s. That's the maximum you can have with this boat. You can spec it with twin 350s instead if you like, which should be good for around about 42 to 44 knots. Apparently with the triple rig it should be good for in excess of 50 knots. Even from here, if we peer into this cockpit, you can see that seating does seem to take precedence over fishing facilities. But actually, if we step on board and look at the finer details, you'll see that both are pretty well catered for to a degree. Rod holders in the back end there at the transom, more at the aft edge of the T-top, and we've also got a towing ring there for water sports, which is very useful indeed. It's nice and elevated too, and in the centre of the boat, which helps. But we do have other fishing features here, not least this aft bench, which can be simply lifted up and folded into place, so you've got more deck space to fish from. And if I just shift this fender, which seems to be getting slightly in the way, and lift this little cushion there, you'll see we've got a live bait well there as well. So it is, even in its standard fit out, pretty much geared up for a bit of fishing as well. And as we move around the boat, you'll see there are drained storage lockers, which again lend themselves to fishing. But what we really want to concentrate on here is the seating, because this is a very impressive cockpit. We've got a pretty generous beam here, and it's well used for a pair of L-shaped, if I bring this back out, a pair of L-shaped benches. An aft one on the port side, a slightly staggered one on the starboard side, leaving a gap here, which is very handy because this is a drop-down terrace, so you can expand the deck out to starboard. There is of course a table fitting for this section, and there's plenty of storage beneath this deck too, beneath these two cockpit hatches. Really good volume, good shape of storage for bulky gear. And this is quite useful too under the port bench. If we lift this up one-handed, which I can just about do, you see we've got drained boards, drained cushions. Don't have to remove the cushion to actually lift it. It's on cantilever hinges, so it's very simple to do. Usefully lined, and plenty of space in there for your ladder and your table upright, your life jackets. And that's the story of the storage all over this boat. Very easy, very user-friendly, but as you'll notice, there's no recognisable wet bar back here. You'd maybe expect it lining the back end of those three central helm seats, but on this occasion, because we've got all that seating aft, the wet bar duties have been split between port and starboard. We've got the sink over here on the port side with a good size of fridge underneath, and round on the starboard side, again in a little diagonal moulding just to keep the walkways open, we've got the cooking facilities here, the bin forward, and some additional storage there. And actually in the unit beneath these three helm seats, we've got extra storage. Certainly plenty of space for additional refrigeration or an ice maker. And here's a little reminder inside here that actually Wellcraft is historically a fishing brand. There we are, let's close that back up and make our way around these helm seats past the helm station itself. We'll take a closer look at that when we're out on the water, and make our way to the bow. Really nice big high gauge stainless steel rails built into a recess in the gunnels there. Rod holders in a recess in the bulwarks. I don't much like these though, these boarding steps, one on either side, because they're kind of tucked into the same recesses that house the brackets for your rods, which means that you kind of endanger your shin on this fiberglass edge, and also because the T-top comes out almost to the edge of those gunnels. It's really quite an awkward job making use of it, either to get in or to get out. And this is really interesting. For a start, it's a good size in terms of its footprint, good length, good beam. The beam comes a decent way forward here. What's really interesting is the fact that the bulwarks sort of thicken and fatten as they move forward, and that pinches your walkway in towards the centre. And the reason for that is that on the one hand it creates a natural backrest for people to lounge and face forward, which is quite attractive, and it also generates a little bit of extra volume inside those bulwarks themselves for a little drain tray on top. There's one of these automatic LEDs that pops up, and below here we've got speakers and a little space here, I believe, for your gas for that cooker on the starboard side further aft. We move over to the port side. Well, there's not so much done with it here. We've kind of got a big cavity inside this section that hasn't been properly utilised, so I'd maybe like to see a bit more done with that. But it's a neat trick, and it doesn't in any way get in the way of this two-person lounger built into the front end of that console and facing forward. So you can lounge yourself there, face forward to maybe, what, 4 people up in that U-shaped bow section, and enjoy a really sociable lunch at the forward end, separated from the main party aft. And what else we have to mention about this bow space is its chief party trick, which arguably is this section of deck actually lifts at the touch of a button, table up, table down, to become an infill for an all-over sunbed forward, or to raise slightly higher and operate as a table, enabling you to dine as many people as 6 people up here in the forepeak. And actually, while we're here, it's worth talking about security too, because if I point the camera down at my hip, you'll see that the moulding has come well up. It's a really secure, deep set, safe feeling bow. And it's a story of the bulwarks all over this boat. Very safe, very secure indeed. And as you can see, built into the front end of the console, we've got a little glass section just to admit extra light. And I believe we have another one just in the front, yeah, in the front of the seating unit, the sunbed section there. So that suggests decent things for what we're about to see when we head down below. And we make our way down below via this port side deck. We've got a couple of catches there, and then a big heavyweight door with a huge hinge and a rubber gasket. Seems faintly over-engineered for the job, but you're not going to complain about that. And when we get in here, well, as you can see, the deck head dips a lot. It's perfectly fine at the entrance point. I reckon we've got about 6.5 feet there. And there is a decent bit of natural light thanks to that window we just pointed out. And if we just stoop down and take a look at that, well, that's not bad at all. It's a decent shape. You can sleep with your heads forward, no problem at all, because of course it stops short of the taper right up in the forepeak. We've got fabric linings on both sides and storage built in here, plus power points, reading lights at the head end of the bed. I've sat up there, and I reckon even though it's a relatively beamy sort of bow, it would be a bit tight for 2 people to sit up in bed propped up by their pillows reading a book. But you do have the option, of course, of popping one of you in that corner and another in this corner where the deck head lifts, and you get extra natural light in any case. As for the rest of the space in here, well, it's a compromise, but it's quite an effectively managed one. Now, as you can see, we've got a sink and a cabinet directly here on the aft bulkhead. And then we have our shower facilities just in here, exactly where you would expect to find the toilet, and that's exactly where it is. There's not space for a separate shower and a separate loo, but it's quite neatly done. It's very bright, as I say. You're still getting light in here because they've rather sensibly used a kind of frosted perspex style bulkhead and left a gap over the top. The closing mechanism for this shower also works reasonably well for a limited space. You've got to be aware of your fingers, both with the kind of concertina door and with the device that's used to slide over the top to keep those 2 doors level with one another, parallel. But given that we've got such an outstanding bow space and such a big accommodating cockpit aft, you'd have to say that as a week-ending space for two, this is not bad at all. The helm station on this new 38 T-top is immediately a very relaxing and natural place to sit. And it differs from the 38 Explorer, with which this boat shares a hull, of course, because on that Explorer model you've got two co-pilot seats on the port side, the skipper's position over on the starboard side, and then a gap to get down to the cabins splitting the two. But here the skipper sits bang in the centre of the boat, exactly where you'd want to be. Good visibility all round, nice steep screens, loads of protection too, certainly in this central position, particularly as we got these little lateral window extensions that flare out just to kick the elements a little further wide. We took this boat out yesterday afternoon as well and had a good play in slightly rougher conditions. And I noticed that because beneath that the mouldings don't flare, well, if you're sitting on one of these side seats, you still get kind of hit in the chest, hit in the legs by the wind. Your face is protected, but your body less so. Even so, from this central position, as I say, loads of protection. It's a relatively tight position for a really big guy. There's not a tremendous amount of travel if you want to shift that seat aft, but for a bloke of my size, it's a pretty comfortable standing position. And you can, of course, stick the bolster down, use that foot brace down below there, and operate the boat from this position. In terms of the rest of the helm ergonomics, well, you've got a couple of 16-inch MFDs on the main tier here with a compass directly in your eye line, exactly where you'd want it. You've also got some speakers built into the T-top and a Fusion remote, and that T-top actually goes the full beam of the boat. It's very wide, so it gives you really good shelter from the sun. And talking of shelter, actually what I really like here, and I remember seeing this on my first ever car, a Citroen 2CV. It's slightly different on this boat, of course, because this is a premium product and that very much wasn't. But if I hit this button that says air vent up, this little flap on the dash top simply elevates, and there's a grate to filter out any wasps or anything that might hit you in the face. Air just flows straight over you when you're underway. It's a really simple idea, but very effective. I like that a lot. In terms of the rest of the dash, well, we've got a little bit of storage space on the port side, a couple of cup holders on either side, which is nice to see, and a lot of manual switching, which I also like. I know it's all going towards digital switching now, but I prefer this. I find it more reliable and easier to use. We do have the tab switches on the port side, which I don't like, and I never like. I'd like them relocated to the starboard side. But of course, we have an active trim facility on the throttle base, which means that you don't necessarily need to use that very much at all. What we'll do though is strap on the kill cord and get this boat underway, because this boat is a lot of fun to drive. I wasn't so impressed with the Explorer model, but this one, it feels, even though it shares the same hull, it feels better. It feels like the weight's in a better position. We've got a 1,000-litre fuel tank directly beneath us here, and even though we've got a ton of outboards hanging up on the transom way aft, as you'll see, it behaves itself impeccably. And let's just get ourselves off active trim and do it ourselves. Get ourselves on one lever as well. Trim those engines in to begin and get ourselves underway. And as we do so, well, a couple of things that I enjoy immediately become quite apparent. Firstly, directional stability is fantastic, and you'd expect that. This is a 38-foot boat, slightly more than that actually, and it's got a plumb bow, so there's a nice long waterline length. These gentle, what are we doing, 6-knot displacement speeds. There's no corkscrewing, there's no over-correcting as you move along a channel. And the engines here we have here today, we've got the top-rated triple 350s. You can have twin 350s if you prefer. That's apparently good for around about 42 knots. But here today, we got the triples, which should be good for in excess of 50 knots. So what we'll do is get her underway and see what kind of pickup we enjoy. Well, dialing in a little bit of trim there. We're doing 44 knots already, 46. We'll just get her right through to the top end to see how fast she does actually travel. Passing 50 now. We'll just trim her in a touch, a couple of little swells there. Yeah, 52 and a half. Just touching 53 knots. And apparently, I'll just ease her back, apparently, if you just have a little bit of experimentation with the props, this boat should be good for around about 55. And in terms of the running efficiency, well, there are some quite distinct bands. At everything from 20 to 25 knots, we're seeing around about 4 litres per nautical mile. So with 20% redundancy in the system, you're looking at a range of 200 miles. You up that to 30, 35 knots, you're easing on towards 5 litres per hour at 40 knots, which gives you a range of 160 miles. But if you push on to the top end as I just did, well, it goes south, of course. You're looking at 7 litres per nautical mile, so you wouldn't tend to do that unless you're borrowing somebody else's boat and somebody else's fuel tank, as I am today. Now let's have a little play with the handling. I'll get her up to pace again, just a little bit of extra. And we'll throw around to the starboard side first. And look at that lovely hill. And loads of grip. And then once you're settled, you can power on a little bit. This is a non-stepped hull. And you absolutely feel that when you're driving it. It feels really very secure and composed indeed. We'll just ease her around to port now. And again, look at that, settle down that hill, power on a little bit, loads of grip from the props, loads of grip from the hull. It's a lot of fun, this boat. And yeah, we got no swells to play with here today, but we did yesterday, and it dealt with them pretty well. Relatively soft riding, and a surprising amount actually of splash deflection from that bow shape. There's not a huge amount of flare, but there is a little bit dialed in, even though we carry that beam a decent way forward. So that is the new Wellcraft 38 T-top. And I know it's quite easy to become blasé about another open boat with a T-top and a fistful of outboard power. But I reckon that displays the kind of ingenuity that just elevates it a little bit above most of its competition. Now, if you've got something to say about this new boat, then please do share it with us in the section below. We'd love to hear from you. If you've enjoyed the video, hit like, and if you want more videos like this in the future, then please do subscribe to the Motorboat and Yachting channel.